Stirling, how does a valedictorian and published chemist end up starring in films?
How did he do that? I actually had a little bit of a transition phase in between those two things as well, which was I ran a paleo meal delivery business. So I did my chemistry degree, worked as an industrial chemist for a bit, pharmaceutical research chemist for a bit. Didn't really see much like excitement in the job, much career progression in the job. I was sort of like, I'm going to be capped monetarily, and then that kind of put me down the path of entrepreneurship, going to this conference in Lithuania with a bunch of self-made American millionaires. Came back to Australia after that, started a paleo meal delivery business off the back of that. Did all right, but we were pretty much capped in the city I lived in, which was the Perth on the west coast. It's the world's most isolated capital city, so there's not much room for growth and expansion. Ended up selling that, and then it was at that phase of my life where I was like, well, I just spent the last 2 years grinding and hustling, trying to make all this money, and I was like, well, why did I do that? I sort of just had this really introspective thought, and I was a younger man, and I was like, I'm being totally honest, I did this so I could make money. Well, why do I want to make money? So I want to make money because I want to travel around the world and be with gorgeous women, if I was being totally honest with myself. I think a lot of young men are probably, similar in that regard. Maybe not everybody, but I think a lot. So I thought, well, why don't I just cut the middleman out and kind of go straight to the source and try to get paid to do that at the same time? And then I kind of reverse engineered my way into it.
So you starred in films for about 5 years. How much did you make from all those shoots?
I think total, probably $270,000 in total across 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
And how many films would you say you shot during that time?
Over 400.
It's roughly $700 for a film, something like that?
A little bit, yeah, give or take, depending upon who I was shooting for.
To kind of compare that to what females in the industry make, how much does the average actress make?
About double what the blokes make. You could say there's a gender pay gap in that industry.
And then is there also a higher number of female actresses compared to men?
Significantly higher. In terms of the working male talent pool at any given time, it's probably only 30 blokes, and probably 15 of them are doing most of the work. 70% of the 60-70% of the work's going to 15 blokes, and then the other 15 are fighting for the remaining 40-30%. And then women-wise, you're looking at least a couple of hundred, probably 300 total across the United States at any given time that are on an agency's roster or are independent and are working pretty consistently.
And then do you make more money based on specific categories that you do?
The guys don't, but the girls will get danger pay, if you want to put it like that, for doing things that are a bit more extreme, a bit more taboo. That's when their pay will start to increase. The blokes kind of get just a flat rate.
This might be a rumor I've heard from other people. I don't remember where I heard this, but it was something along the lines of many straight male actors will often do homosexual scenes because those pay better, or there's just looking for more work. What's kind of the stance there?
When I was in the industry, there was a couple of blokes who had done that previously, who were then shooting straight stuff, but it wasn't a requirement. I never got asked personally. I'm almost insulted by that on a weird way, because I'm obviously not good looking enough. There wasn't any necessity to go down to do that first before you can get into the straight side of things. There was a couple of blokes who had done it previously, and then they stopped doing that and they only did the straight stuff. And there was actually a really controversial episode that I think this happened probably, I want to say 2018, maybe it was 2017. There was a girl who got booked to shoot with a guy, to shoot a regular scene. And we find out who we're working with maybe a day before. If it's some studios, maybe a week before, whatever, but usually we find out text message from our agent, here's who you're shooting with, this is the address, this is what you're wearing, go. And she found out she was booked with a guy who was a crossover performer. So he shoots both homosexual content and straight content. And there's obvious health risks that come along with that. The homosexual side of the industry has a higher risk for things like HIV, obviously, right? This is not a controversial statement, but when she said that she didn't want to shoot with the guy, because of that, this got leaked onto Twitter. Everybody attacked her for it. And this young woman, unfortunately, ended up self-deleting, shall we say, after that, mass online bullying for her personal choice. It's this weird dynamic in the industry where it's you can't speak out of the party line. You can't step off the plantation. You have to do what the mass consensus says is the correct thing to do. Yeah, and her sort of expressing her opinion about that and making a personal choice. I thought the idea was it's your body, your choice. But in her case, apparently not. And she got bullied for that. And then unfortunately, she's no longer with us. I noticed 2019 and 2020 a big push from the industry to try and, let's say, normalize bisexual content, trans content, crossover performers. And there was even a couple of veteran performers, guys who'd been only in the straight side of the industry for like 10, 15 years or something like this, who were on contract, I believe, to some pretty big companies. And they were, I don't know how that interaction, how that deal went down personally, but they ended up doing either a trans scene or a bisexual scene. All of this was sort of happening at the same time. Like, it was just this, that was going on. And then obviously there was the 2020 election, which was that was a very controversial event. There was all this storm of like very political statements, very political things being pushed in an industry which you wouldn't think is very political, but it surprisingly is behind closed doors.
Sterling, you've said at least 5 people you've worked with are now dead.
Yeah.
What does the industry do to people's minds?
So there are different circumstances. So there was two guys who are no longer with us, and both of those circumstances, one of them, unfortunately, he got drunk and fell down some stairs whilst on holiday. 2 other guys both got involved in car accidents. I think at least one of them, maybe both of them were on motorcycles. And that got me thinking. And then there was a couple of women who self-deleted. And those are obviously quite different situations, But I was trying to figure out, like, what's the common denominator here? Like, and because this happens a lot. Like, my first ever in awards ceremony I went to, at the very beginning of the ceremony, there was like a good 5-minute slideshow reel in memorial to a bunch of people in the industry who had died that, and they were, putting up their photos and stuff. And these people were not old. Damn, this is the very beginning of the whole award ceremony. This is pretty dark. Same thing again the next year. And with these people I knew personally, there's something there about like the psychology. Not everyone, but certain women who end up in the industry. There have been a couple of studies that were done on like comparing the broader female population of LA County to performers, specifically women. And at least one of these studies showed correlations, like they were more likely to have come from an adopted home. They were more likely to have, been subject to, let's say, unwanted interactions at a younger age. They were more likely to be in poverty, a bunch of these things. Obviously not all of them. They were more likely to. The correlation was definitely pointing in one direction. And you see all these things and you think, I'm not sure whether it's a bit of a chicken or egg thing for me. I'm like, I'm not sure whether these women are self-deleting because of their experience in the industry, or if they were on that path prior to getting into the industry, and one way or another, she unfortunately was heading down that path anyway. And maybe her blasé attitude towards life is what led her into the industry, You kind of see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, it's selection bias. The group of people you're like picking, like those people could have more mental health issues to begin with.
Right. Now, obviously not every girl is like that in the industry. And it's people like to paint like every female performer with this brush, that they're all like this, or they all come from a broken home, or they all come from this. That's just not the case. Like, there was a bunch of women who had university degrees. There was a couple of women I knew who actually had basically had one boyfriend prior to getting into the industry. There's others who were like super successful because they were extremely like professional, very, very like hardworking is the correct word to say. People are probably going to laugh at that, but professional in every aspect of the business that they could be. And they really, really loved the job. Like, if there was a job for them, this is probably it. But then I'd go to work some days and you'd end up working with a girl, and I'm like, I don't know if you should be doing this job. Are you okay, honey? I don't know if you have chosen the right path. It's almost like they're just going through the routine sometimes. So that was having that experience, and that was, again, selection bias, right? Yeah, there's this aspect of the industry which is just, some women, it's not the path. I mean, you could make the argument that nobody should be taking that path now. And actually, I cannot take that stance now. I don't actually help anyone get into the industry. I've had people reach out to me before. I've had blokes reach out to me and be like, hey, I want to try and have a crack at it. And I just tell them straight up, like, don't do it. I'm not going to help you go down this. But I could give them a complete step-by-step game plan of exactly how to get into the industry, exactly what to do when you're in there, how to get booked, how to make a career out of it. But I just don't. Yeah, I've very much done a complete 180 on my attitudes towards the adult industry these days.